It's your boy Hi-Fi Vega back again, and this time we are here to find the best subwoofer you can buy for under $150. You've met the competitors in part 1 of this video. This is part 2. I want to get straight into it, but I'm going to let you know what we're going to test, what we're going to do. So we're going to test for 3 things. The first thing is SPL output at 550 watts RMS. The second thing is peak temperature on a sine wave 1 minute test. The third thing is the peak temperature on RMS power on music. I'm ready to get straight into the testing. I hope you guys are ready too. This is going to be a long one, so grab a Coke, grab your popcorn, go ahead and pause the video now, get ready, and let's just get straight into it. Alright, sorry for the noise because the power supply is on, but I want to explain what I'm doing with the RMS test. The first test will be 1/2 RMS on a sine wave. That's a much more difficult test than playing music. In this case, it is 500 watts because the K9 is CEA rated at 1000 watts, which is their RMS rating. I will set the volume and the gain to get around 500 watts on this for 1 minute on a sine wave. I will let it completely cool, and then the next test, what I will do is I will turn up to the volume in which I get full RMS, which will be 1000 watts on this sub in particular, and then I will play music on that for 1 minute, which is, in my opinion, a much easier test. The thing is, I do not have the update on my AM-M1. I haven't wanted to be without it long enough to get the update, so I cannot monitor RMS rating here on music. I can only do it on a sine wave. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set the volume on the sine wave doing 1000 watts. Once I do that, I will flip the disc in, and then that will be the 1000 watt test at the volume, whatever it happens to be, for the RMS music test. this is the full RMS musical test on the Rockville K9. So I've got everything set up. Let's put 1,000 watts to it for a minute and see how it does. This is the full RMS music test on the Resilient Sound RS12. Let's get it going. We are doing the 1 minute RMS music test. We've got it dialed in to about 700 watts on a sine wave. Let's start it. Let's see what it does. Alright, before we get into my final thoughts, let me hit you with some of the caveats. The first one being the Rockville sub was the only sub that was a little bit too big for the enclosure cutout, so I did make just a baffle to set on top, and I used the clamps to hold it together. Worked pretty well. I figured you guys might have questions about why that was, and that is why that happened. The other caveat is the Teramps MD 1800 amplifier that I was using. For whatever reason, I decided to use the low pass filter on there, which is 80 hertz. And as you can see in the video, it wasn't so great, and it would jump up, to 90 and even over 100 at times. The enclosure plays well up to the 70 hertz range, so I figured it'd be fine, but I should have used the head unit crossover for sure. So if you've got one of these amps, make sure you're doing that, or a DSP, or whatever it may be. Now we can get on to my final thoughts. I figure I'll talk about each winner in each test that we've done, and I'll kind of give you those specs. Then we'll go into the winners chosen by me in certain categories. So let's start off with price. You know, I've got notes. I always have notes, paper notes, man. I love them. As far as cost, the cheapest one being the Cadence UD-12. It comes in at $106 shipped, the cheapest sub in the shootout. The next cheapest sub is actually tied. It's the Sundown E12 V2, which at the time was $119 shipped, and the Brockville K9, which is $119 shipped as well. Number 4 is the Resilient Sounds RS12. It's $135 shipped. And coming in last, but certainly not least, is the Rap 12, which is $156 after shipping is figured in. Now, one of the tests I did was SPL. I used 550 watts, even though some of these subs are not rated 550 watts. I wanted to do 500, but if you've ever tried to get a specific amount of power out of an amp, you can feel my pain. So 550 was as close as I would get. I know that I used a cheap bass meter that you guys typically would not. I do have a mini bass meter, but that is not accurate, or it doesn't even read until 120 decibels. So I knew that on 550 watts we were not going to reach that threshold. So we went ahead and used the regular mic bass meter. It's important to say that these subwoofers can get louder off more power, but this is just a baseline so you can see what these subs do in a controlled environment at the same power range. Let's start with the number 5 position, and then we'll work our way to the number 1 position. So number 5 coming in at 104.3 decibels is the Sundown E12. This could be a symptom of the enclosure. It is a little bit big for that sub. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but certainly with more power, this sub can take it. Coming in at number 4 is the Cadence UD-12. It done 106 decibels flat. I think it performed pretty well for its price range. Coming in at number 3 is the Savard Rap Series 12 version 2. It done 108.3 decibels, a very respectable number on 550 watts. Coming in at number 2 is the Resilient Sounds RS12 at 108.6 dB. So it was very close to the Rap, and it performed very well. Coming in at a whopping 110.8 dB is the Rockville K9. I've said this many times, if you guys watch 12V Talk or any of the other things that I do, that this Rockville K9 gets loud on low power. It gets louder than most subs that I've played with on a small amount of power. So it's just, I knew it with my ears, but being able to verify it like this, pretty cool. The next category is the sine wave peak temperature. I decided to do 1/2 RMS on a sine wave for 1 minute. What we're looking to see is if it can handle that power for 1 minute straight and what kind of temperatures we're getting. So I'm going to start with number 5 and read my way down. Number 5 was the Resilient Sounds RS12, and it got up to 99.3 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not terrible at all, but it was number 5 on the list. Number 4 on the list was the Cadence UD-12. It got 98.6 degrees, just like a person, so not too bad at all. Number 3 on the list was the Rap 12. It got 97.1 degrees Fahrenheit during the 1 minute sine wave test. Number 2 is the Rockville K9. It was 93.7 degrees during the sine wave test. And this should not be a surprise to me at all, but the Sundown E12 came in number 1, and it was 85.1 degrees. That was the peak temperature during the sine wave test, and anybody that's used these E12 subs know they can absolutely take a beating. I decided to throw one more test in here, and this test is the full RMS for 1 minute on music, which I think is a much easier test than the sine wave test. Okay, in a stunning turn of events, the Rockville K9 did get the hottest at number 5 during the full RMS music test. It got 106.3 degrees, which is a mile hotter than the rest, and that's not a good sign for longevity. Number 4 was the Rap 12. It got 92.8 degrees. Not too bad at all. It was number 4 though, so that means number 3 is the Resilient Sounds RS12, and it got 92.4 degrees. So the Rap and the Resilient Sounds were very close. Number 2 is the Sundown E12 V2. It was 91.7 degrees. It performs well. It cools well. Cadence Ultra Drive 12, which got 91.2 degrees during the full RMS test. So it did perform well during these tests. It is very hard to keep a certain amount of power going to a sub through a full 1 minute for a test. So instead of slightly adjusting the volume or the gain knob, I just let it run. I set it at the beginning where I want it to be, and I just kind of let it run. It's not perfect, we're just trying to compare here. I do have 3 categories that I've picked winners in, and there's a tie in some of them, so that's how it happens. Let me just get straight to the categories that I picked for the winners. And I didn't really pick any losers because honestly, at each price point, I don't think there is a loser in this bunch. Any one of these subs that you paid for, you're going to get your money's worth, and they all sound pretty good. None of them are going to disappoint you, in my opinion. So if that's what you're waiting for, feel free to buy any of these subs. Now, if you're ready to hear my categories, here they go. This category is probably one of the most important categories to you guys out there that like big, heavy bass and like to put a lot of power on your subs. This category is most likely to survive. In this category, what I'm talking about is most likely to survive extreme abuse, extreme SPL conditions, and not blow. And my picks for that are tied with the Sundown E12 and the Resilient Sound RS12. These things just absolutely eat up power, no problem whatsoever. Didn't get any kind of weird smell, any kind of weird noises in any of the tests, and if I had to pick a sub just to put gobs of power on, way more power than it's called for, I would go with the Sundown E12 or the Resilient Sounds RS12. The next category might be most important to another group of people, and this would be the best sounding subwoofer. You guys are going to kill me for this. There is a tie on this. The best sounding subwoofers are the Savard Rap 12. It's a great sounding sub. It really, really sounds good. But in a surprise event, man, this Rockville K912 sounds pretty dang good. I know you guys are going to murder me in the comments for this, but that sub does sound good. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. So our final category is best overall value. If you had the money to buy one of these subs and you wanted to get the most bang for your buck, the most output, the best sound, which one would I pick? And I got to do this. I got to do it. This is not a troll. I honestly would pick this sub if I was on a very specific budget and I wanted the most output with the least amount of power and I wanted a good sound. And that is, I'm just going to show you. I can't say it. It is the Rockville K9. You guys go ahead. Flame up in the comments. I don't know what to say, but this thing sounds good. On 550 watts, it done 2 to 3 dB more than every other sub. It handled the full RMS test at 1 minute. It handled the sine wave half RMS at 1 minute. As far as the shootout stands right now, the best overall value, in my opinion, is the Rockville K9, and the numbers kind of bear that out. Although there is a big caveat here. If you're going to be powering this with full power, CEA rated power, you're going to have a bad day. 1,000 watts to this subwoofer for an extended length of time. This subwoofer will give up the ghost on 1,000 watts at extended time. This is really a 600 to 700 watt RMS sub. It's just a little overrated. As far as the sub itself, the quality of the sub, I think it's pretty good. It sounds good. It plays good. And it performs. It just don't handle the power that they say it handles. All that being said, I do have a challenge for you guys, the viewer. If this video gets 5,000 views or 500 likes, whichever comes first, I will do a full 5-minute RMS test on these subwoofers. So I've heard Sundown does this test. They do full RMS for 5 minutes. I think that's a pretty good test. And if we reach the milestone of either 5,000 views or 500 likes, I will do the full RMS test for 5 minutes on each of these subs. But to make it better, if we reach those goals, one of those goals, the 500 likes or the 5,000 views, I will give one of these subs away to one lucky winner in the United States. Sorry, people in Canada and the UK. I absolutely love you guys wherever you live, but it's just very expensive to ship these subs. So you got to be in the US. If we meet that criteria, I will do the 5-minute RMS test on all these subs, and I will give one of them away to one of you lucky viewers. Share it, do whatever you got to do. Let's get those views, let's get those likes, and let's put these subs on power for 5 minutes straight and see which ones can handle it. That's it. That's my challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed this small shootout, and I hope we meet the goal, because I really want to do the third video. Tell me what you think in the comments. Go ahead and roast me about picking the K9 as the overall value winner in this shootout. But yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters, but I want to give a special shout out to the $6 or more members: 2001 Monolithic, The Third Era, G Nava, Joaquin Juarez, Paul Smith, Byron Chambliss, The Cardio Guy, Jason Zemer, Travis McClendon, Brandon Hanna, William Berg, Boxboy Audio Sound Solutions, and Jesus Tires. For as little as $2 a month, you can join the team and get exclusive Patreon-only content not available on YouTube. So if you want to help your boy out, check me out at patreon.com/HiFiVega. Oh, 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 oh.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.